Greetings, everybody. This is Christopher Messina coming at you from the Messy Time Studios, broadcasting as ever from the beautiful beaches in the last free state in America, Florida. Coming to us north of the border and our slightly less free place in Canada is Paul Finlayson, who is going to tell us about his recent Maoist struggle committee ordeal with his university. Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Oh, my pleasure, Chris.
So give us a quick rundown. What happened at your university? Just tell the story as you've written it on Substack, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, I'm a university professor or adjunct professor at one university, lecturer at another. Been teaching this. I've been doing this for about 15 years. I teach marketing, digital marketing, and I've written some textbooks. I'm not a top flight academic by any stretch. I'm more
a concept we will come back to later, but carry on.
Okay. So anyways, I'm teaching at University of Guelph. It's called technically University of Guelph-Humber, but they get a University of Guelph degree, which is it's a fairly good size university in Southern Ontario. It's not, we don't really have an Ivy League in Canada, but it's University of Guelph would be in the top half. It's not cream of the crop, but and nor am I. So it's a good fit. Anyways, I'm going in. I believe it was on a Monday. I go in early to teach my class, to meet with a student before I teach my class, and I assign a lot of project work. So I'm always working with students. I'm very student friendly. They have my phone number. We're always Zooming and talking and doing this. So it's a very informal environment. And I've been at this university, like I said, 13, 14 years. It's really my community. I spend way too much time there. And I like it. I really enjoy what I do. But anyways, what happened is in the beginning of November, I was on LinkedIn. I've been watching the massacre videos, I guess the censored ones, because only journalists see the really horrible ones of the kids, the teenagers at the concert in Israel, and I found it sort of horrific. And I've always been a supporter of Israel. I've got Jewish friends. I went to a private school in Winnipeg that had a large Jewish presence. Winnipeg historically has had a large Jewish presence. So
to be clear, you don't have to know or like a single Jew to be horrified at Hamas's massacre.
Yeah, I agree. And then I was on LinkedIn, and some guy who called himself an educator, I think in Pakistan, wrote a post and was doing the old river to the sea, and he which it's such it's such a nice phrase with nice meter in it, but it actually means destroying a nation.
Yep.
And I don't think they mean that they're going to give like travel coupons to the people there.
The Hamas charter is simple. They want to kill every Jew on the planet. And
yeah, so it's not just removal of the land. It's killing, I guess, 7 million Jews and 2 million Arabs. And I was offended, and I said that I stand with Israel, and I said if you stand with Hamas, you stand with Nazis, which is
fairly true.
Which is true. And I just went down a little bit of a rant on it, and I just thought he was calling himself an educator. It's a little pretentious, and then he's saying he wants to destroy a nation. So I just went back at him. Honestly, I thought nothing of it. It was your typical Twitter exchange blast.
Yep.
And anyways, so I left. And then I think about a week later, a student that I know and that I like says, hey, these students are agitating against you. Mm-hmm. And he showed me a picture of my response message from LinkedIn with a negative comment about me and calling me names on top of it, a JPEG. And he said, you better look out for this. And I didn't really take it seriously. I said, okay. And he said the name of the one of the boys involved. And it was strange. He was one of my best students, a very nice kid, very good student, great family. I knew his brother. I taught his brother, and I had his brother on LinkedIn. So I just thought the natural way of dealing when, you know, these kids watch 2 TikToks and they become an expert and they get all self-righteous.
All riled up, yes.
Yeah, I thought the best way to deal with it is to talk face to face or on the phone. And so I texted the brother, and we had a nice talk. And I said, "Can I get your brother to call me?" And I probably said it's because I'm getting some students are sort of agitating against me, but it wasn't an emotional talk. It was very casual, very low key. He said, "Okay," and then the brother called me. The brother turns out,
Is the
I
snitch
believe,
the little Maoist struggle committee snitch?
yeah, who had, I don't know if he had reported me already or he did it later, but I really just said, hey, so and so. I got this Instagram post, and apparently you're involved with it. And it's about something I said about Israel, and people are upset. Just wanted to talk about it. And he said, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't get into the Israel-Palestine thing. There's no point. It's too hot. And I said, okay. And we dropped it. And then we just had, I don't remember, we talked about small talk. And then, okay, that was over. And I guess I probably getting my timeline because it wasn't the same day. But a few days later, when I said I went in early to meet the student, I get a assistant department head says, come up to this meeting. And I'm like, okay, but I wasn't really scared. And then, but I thought it was a bit strange. I was meeting in a room. It's a small university, a room I'd never been in. It was like the detective's room. I like detective shows. And
Did they have the rickety table that made you uncertain? You put your coffee down, it sloshed.
yeah, and right at the door is like some big dude wearing a too tight shirt, and
Did
he
he
goes,
have
"I'm from
SS
it."
lightning bolts on his shirt, or am I just making that up?
I can't remember. He said, "I'm from HR," and then
from the enforcement division of HR.
yeah, but he wasn't
Anyway,
mean
go
or
on. Go
anything.
to
But
this meeting. And what do they tell you in this insane meeting?
they said, and it wasn't saying. They said you're suspended with pay. And they shoved this sheet in my face. There was no preamble. Thank you for coming in. There was no, this was a helicopter taking off. This was not a plane taking off. It got right to the point very quickly.
Right.
And the vice
Well, you got to be
provost,
thankful for the efficiency.
yes,
No
the
soft soaping it.
vice provost, who was very agitated, and he wouldn't look at me, and he was almost twitching. And I said, he seemed very angry. And I said, what's this about? And he said, it's about a social media post. And I said, what social media post? And he said, I don't know. I haven't read it. And I said, you're suspending me based on a post that you haven't read. And I said, are you lying to me? And he didn't respond to that. And then I just said, well, I'm not signing anything. So I don't know. Are we done? And they said, yeah. So I went to my office, and it was just, I don't think they've ever been through a process like this, or it was called a human rights complaint, which I had never heard of.
Human rights complaint.
Yeah, I don't get out enough
For
to deal with
criticizing
human rights.
terrorists that gang rape and murder and abduct babies. Yeah, I can see why that would be a critical human rights
Yeah,
complaint.
so
No
I
editorial
went down
being
to
fun.
I went down to my office oblivious. I didn't realize I'd been kicked off campus because they hadn't told me. And then he somewhat sheepishly, the HR guy came down and said, you're not allowed to be here, actually. And I said, oh, okay. And then, so I packed up my backpack and I went to my car. And then I found out not only was I kicked off campus, I was kicked off the learning management system. My courses were taken from me. And these are courses that I've had officially developed and that I've written the textbook for and they've written materials for, and I'm deeply invested in. They're my babies. And then students are freaking out because they haven't. I had a class that I was supposed to be at, and they just
You're
get told,
mid-semester teaching people in theory, and now you're just gone. What are they telling the
yeah,
kids?
I'm not allowed to talk to them. I'm not allowed to talk to anyone associated with Guelph-Humber, Guelph or Humber, which is undoubtedly in the tens of thousands. My neighbor went to my university, okay? And so it was just ridiculous. And then the students are starting to get angry at me because I'm just not showing up. But I'm not allowed to talk to them and tell them the reason
Right.
because I've been banned. And
all of which, of course, are normal hallmarks of how a democratic society of a rule of law operates.
yeah,
Crazy.
I don't think employers can tell you that you're not allowed to talk to anyone associated with this institution.
No, they're not.
If there's some person that's making the accusation against me, obviously I'm not allowed to go up and talk to that person or influence witnesses.
Depends on I don't know the laws of Canada, but anyway, that's not the point. This is Maoist leftist crap. This has got nothing to do with due process or rationale.
Yeah, due process left the building a long time ago.
So what are your impressions of all this? Because I mean, I'm delighted you come to tell your story because I've been hammering on this for years about the leftist infiltration of Western universities driving a Marxist and largely Jew-hating agenda. And people have always been kind of, I try to keep it down because people up until October 7th of last year kind of would edge away from me because I sound like a lunatic. No, we're absolutely right. They've been doing this deliberately for decades, and now here we are. You've got a marketing professor who made a fairly anodyne comment supporting a group of people who have been attacked, raped, and murdered, and you're the problem. That's the leftist mindset. And so they're doing it to you, and good for you that, as I understand, they wanted you to sign some, we can cut this out if you don't like. They asked you to sign some ridiculous NDA before they would talk to you again, and you refused.
Well, this is 4 months late. That happened November 27th. Now we're almost April 15th.
And you got no resolution. You're just sitting in limbo right now, right?
My courses were, see, I was not even told till December 19th what the charges were. I was in limbo from the 27th to the 19th.
And so now even when I with actual charges?
Well, it's not charges in a civil court. It's a human rights complaint, which is basically this is public information. The guy who is complaining is a fellow professor, Wael Ramadan. It's all in the newspaper, so I'm not saying anything. Right. And basically, it's just somewhat of an emotional, childish reaction with the standard. He's a racist, he's Islamophobe, he's violent. I didn't threaten violence or talk about violence. I didn't talk about race. I didn't talk about religion. I did talk about Hamas.
Yeah. Who spend all of their days training children to kill Jews, but you're not allowed to criticize them because words are violence, according to the new American left.
So it was just this crazy complaint and calling me a liar. Just basically imagine you're sitting at a desk and you've been working in a company for 13 years and you like your job, you're doing well, and there's that somewhat new guy over there that you don't know, and he just comes up to you and he starts calling you the worst pejoratives, like calling someone a racist and this, and like I love my students in the classroom and I protect them, and I sometimes, I don't try and get involved in their life, but if something's going on, I'll send them to a counselor. If I sort of treat the student as a whole, I'm not the classes are only 65 students, so I get to know them. I engage them as human beings and I help them get jobs. I'm not the, read the PowerPoint and leave guy. Mm-hmm. And so I care about them, and to be told that I'm a threat of violence, and I should never be able to teach again, and I'm a threat of violence in the class.
Because
It's
of
quite
one
insulting.
post sympathizing with murder victims of the Gazan government on October 7th.
Correct. Based.
So what do you?
And my post has been published in the national newspaper, and I even think the middle of the post, because it's just a JPEG. Nobody has the original off. I believe it said, if you stand with Palestinians, you stand with Hamas. Now, the line between Palestinians and Hamas is a very, very blurry one. I think I said,
we don't, on this show, don't worry, there is none. There's no fucking difference.
okay, I think
The reason there's absolutely no elections in Judea and Samaria is because when they last held elections, Fatah was terrified to find that Hamas won something like 80% of the vote. And so Fatah, choosing between democracy, which would put a bunch of complete psychotic terrorists in charge of the West Bank, chose to abrogate the findings of that democratic election and leave Fatah in charge, who just spend their time denying the Holocaust existed and shooting in occasional Jews, but are not actually as organized as Hamas. So you have the Israelis, who are the only country on earth that are asked to put up with terrorists on 2 of their borders, who daily say they want to kill them all. Do you imagine? The leftist lunatics I grew up with in New York City drive me out of my mind. If New Jersey shot a rocket at the Upper West Side of Manhattan, those liberals in Manhattan would be calling for the genocide of the New Jerseyans. But when I try to explain to these idiots that Hamas shoots hundreds of rockets per day and have been doing for years, they look at me like I'm insane. We live in an upside down world where United Nations employees were filmed on October 7th murdering people. The UN still exists, and the UN Security Council still issues resolutions against Israel. We live in a world suffused with absurd Jew hatred, and you got caught up in this through no fault of your own. And this is one of the major fights of what we're in right now in World War III. I wish I were wrong. On October 9th, I gave an interview where I said, having read Churchill's World War II 3 times for my sins, there is an inevitability to this. This conflagration is going to grow and grow and grow. And at the end of it, if we're successful, there will be no more Iranian mullahs. There will be no Hamas, no more Hezbollah, no more Houthis. All of these Islamic death cults are going to be fucking gone. That is going to be the big theme of World War III. Like getting rid of Nazis and fascism was the theme of World War II. The theme of World War III in hindsight is these fucking Islamic death cults, these millennialist lunatics perverting religion for their own murderous intent. This will be the end of them. And a lot of us are going to die doing it. This is not going to be easy. But on the verbal war, on the ideological war front, that's what we're facing here in North America with these little Maoist struggle committees attacking you. It's still unresolved. We're here in April 15th. Some idiot who didn't like the fact that you actually called Hamas what they are, is a terrorist organization, has now rendered you sitting at home wondering what your career is going to be like. How does that make you feel?
You know, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Stages of Grief?
Yep.
I don't know. Okay. I think there's been some evolvement from sort of panic to anxiety to anger, and then a mix of anger with resignation. Yeah, just commenting the last thing you said, it's pretty absurd when the moderate leader is the one who's the Holocaust denier. Like, let's have a talk on Jewish-Israeli relations. We've got a moderate here. He doesn't believe the Holocaust existed.
Exactly.
And some of the things, like, we get far more animated in Toronto about a hailstorm than a missile storm in Jerusalem. They're supposed to just run to their air shelters and just go, that's just our lot in life, to have missiles shot at us all the time. It's just normal. It's not even news anymore. It's quite amazing. But back to my situation. It's dragged on. It was covered. The National Post is it's an excellent newspaper. It's there's only 2 national newspapers. Nobody reads newspapers. anymore. Nobody reads anymore. We're becoming sort of a nation of idiots. And yeah,
Welcome to the club.
we just consume whatever what the algorithms give us, and we just mindlessly go to our tribe and get our 50 words of information and become experts. But so what's happened is there's all these policies and procedures, but they've just sort of ignored them, which policies and procedures are on a timeline, and they've ignored the timeline. This was supposed to be dealt with in December. I think because of media pressure, they did decide to pay me for my January semester. So I'm still getting paid. I'll get paid for a few more weeks. They actually canceled my courses that were supposed to run over the summer that have run for, I believe, 13 years. So
Right.
there's no debate about paying me. They're just not going to pay me. And so other than that, I've just observed what they've done. I did get, okay, I said I got the human rights complaint on December 19th. And then I think it was a month or two ago, 2 months, I got a report from the investigator, which was 2 pages. In my opinion, it looked like it was written by, when business students take law courses, but they're not going to become lawyers and they're not very bright.
That's really good.
And,
That's a beautiful description.
it was like, it was 2 pages, and it was really offensive, because again, when you cut someone off from a community and they know that I'm not there, there's an implicit implication the person's done something wrong.
Right.
And
most normal people don't believe this crap can happen until it happens to them.
yeah, and
then
so
they're wondering why they're left alone on an island and people aren't paying attention. So all of you should pay close attention to what Paul is saying, because when this happens to you, no one's going to believe you either, and that's part of what these assholes depend upon.
Yeah, and I'm not like some agitator who talks politics in class and protests this. I was responding to a guy in Pakistan on LinkedIn. I wasn't responding to anyone in
Don't
class.
relitigate here. We're with you. This idiocy is not the issue. This moron in Pakistan who loves to hate Jews and can't wait to see Israel dead is not the point. But the point here is that I'm curious, a question for you. Canada's a different place than America. In America, you'd have gotten a high-powered lawyer. You'd be suing the shit out of this university for wrongful termination. Is that an option for you, or what are you thinking about doing with these idiots?
I'm following they're ignoring most of the process. They gave anonymity. There's not just one accusers, there's about 10 now. Parents of students are also accusers, and they're just basically calling me names. But it's become a petri dish of gossip and slander amongst faculty, staff, and students. I have friendly students who still communicate with me. I have some friendly staff. I'm not allowed to communicate with any of them. And I've got messages. And
well, here's a question. No, this is a serious question. They have no fucking authority over you. What if you called old colleagues? What are they going to do?
Yeah, but the other people are afraid to talk to me. But anyways, some did talk to them. They found one staff member, and you have to know that I'm only getting the tip of the iceberg, because I don't know that many people, and I'm removed. So anything that comes to me is probably, the reality is it's probably 100 times more there.
This is how leftist dictatorships work. There's no rule of law. You don't face your accuser. It's innuendo and rumor, and they're going to hang you without giving you a chance to say your piece in court. These people hate. This is why I invited you on the podcast, right? Sunlight is the best disinfectant for this kind of crap. Hopefully,
and that's why I refused to sign that NDA
good for you.
today.
And hopefully,
which I'm going to get back to.
People see this, because this kind of crap is fundamentally anti-Western. This is Marxist.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Dovetails with Islamofascism, and they've got you in the crosshairs.
The guy, I'm jumping a bit. I'm going to get back to all the defamation, which has been really damaging because my reputation's been destroyed. But the person making the accusations against me is an Islamist, is just a radical anti-Semite. He says, you know, Jews are Satanists. Jews makes jokes about stripping skin off them and making clothing. Of course, all genocide, apartheid, maps without Israel on
Right.
it, compares Ukrainian soldiers to Hamas, is very pro-Houthi, is pro-Erdogan, pro-Putin, of course. So is my wife. We won't go there, but she's Russian. But like he's essentially, he's an Islamist who believes, is very pro-Hamas, and he wants a theocracy. If you're pro-Hamas, theocracy, it's in their charter.
Yep.
And I'm in a university, and theocracies deny Enlightenment values. They deny reason. You can't have reason and theocracy. Those things don't work together. They're one's God and one's reason. And so we have a university defending, and I don't have a crystal ball, but probably 99% I will be fired. That they're defending a guy who works for a university, but whose whole value system is antithetical to the foundations of. Pardon me?
What's this evil bastard's name?
Wael Ramadan. And it's been in the newspaper. Wael Ramadan, like the Muslim holiday. Or I don't think it's a holiday. I think it's with Eid or something. I don't know.
Holy month. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Holy month. But anyways.
Normal Muslims celebrate Ramadan appropriately. Islamist terrorists are an entirely different thing. It's a very clear distinction. But having lived and worked in the Gulf, having lived and worked happily in many Muslim countries, problem is 99.99% of people everywhere are normal human beings. Unfortunately, 0.01% of 3 billion people are violent lunatics. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and but everything he preaches is antithetical to the foundation of what a university is, and they're embracing him. But they're really too stupid to realize this.
And what is the reason? What is your perception? This is a common phenomenon. What is your perception of how Western liberals are so stupid that rather than saying the very logical thing, which is, of course, no one should be discriminated against on the basis of their religion, and of course, most Muslims are perfectly normal Canadians who are living their lives, but this maniac is calling for turning Jews into lampshades, and he's a professor here. Why are you taking his side? Has anyone put that to them publicly? Have they had to answer that very basic question, or they just...
No, it hasn't been put publicly to them. The effect of my human rights complaint was to be dragged into this detectives meeting, banned, banished, ridiculed. I've been accused of assaulting students. I've been accused of, they've been trying to fire me for 5 years. The truth is, I'm one of the best professors, students say. I had students going into the dean's office and saying, "What are you idiots doing? He's our best professor." And I didn't get thousands, but got quite a few. And this is a staff member, has been going around trying to persuade students that I've done a criminal act, assaulted a student, and I guess the story goes, I ripped his shirt off and I was escorted out by police. It's not an exaggeration of a heated talk. There wasn't a heated talk.
None of it happened. Period.
It never happened. And then when you've worked so hard, I don't have a PhD. I have 2 masters, so it's hard for me to get where I'm at with I'm undereducated apparently. I've worked
as opposed to the geniuses running your struggle committee
with
human rights complaint over a tweet
with the PhD in sustainability and medieval lawn care.
Don't mock. Tough topic, medieval lawn care. Not something. Sorry, go on.
But no, you see that. You see people who use a credential that's not related to what they teach.
You can't even have Dr. Jill Biden infesting the White House, who had someone else ghostwrite her dissertation on like community colleges. So don't tell me about title inflation in academia.
It was an education one, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Education is like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's another
I just
topic.
have to say, I have to say this very briefly. What I found so funny about this entire brouhaha, because it's come up a few times with women PhDs, like someone got offended because they didn't call her doctor when she boarded a Qantas flight, or Jill Biden is doctor because she got it. I went to the University of Chicago. First day when you show up there as a freshman, they have the aims of education talk. Every new incoming freshman first year sits in Rockefeller Chapel, and a professor from the university gives the aims of education talk. And this year happened to be someone introduced him as Doctor, whatever, I forget his name. He comes up, he said, I want to make something very clear before I begin this talk. Everyone you're going to meet in this university has a PhD. I was referred to as doctor because I am a doctor, a medical doctor in the School of Medicine at the university. If I were a professor of philosophy, I would have referred to as Mr. So just be really clear. In academia, the only people called doctor are medical doctors, and everyone else is a poser. One of the greatest comments I've ever heard. So for the rest of my life, whenever I hear someone telling me I'm doctor something, and I was like, I've got a boil in my butt. Can you look at it? Like, no, not that kind. Anyway, it's my pet peeve. Go on.
Yeah, there's a lot of post-secondary institutions. What they are is credential factories. They manufacture credentials,
Yep.
and
That
the
make
idea of
inferior people feel good about themselves.
yeah, there is not a lot of critical thinking improvement and not a lot of learning.
Yeah. So we've got to wrap up, but is there, now you got this clear idiocy happening to you, this massive injustice. Are there attorneys who hear this and are like, oh my God, let me take this case so I get a massive payout?
Well, when you're in the union system, you gotta you can't do wrongful dismissal. I have not been officially fired. I have to meet with an investigator, and the investigator makes a report that suggests whether there should be discipline or not. And then there is a right of appeal, but the appeal goes to the person who officially signed the complaint against me originally.
That's fantastic. Hey, would you like
Hey,
to
and guess who
reconsider
makes
this
the
absurd list
decision
of
on whether I
lies?
get fired or not? Sorry, I mean, who decides whether I get fired or not?
Right.
The
So
claimant. So the claimant, the judge, and the prosecutor are the same person.
right, and this is the problem we have in American universities also, is that it sits outside normal law and they can do whatever they want, just like a medieval guild system. So Paul, thank you for taking the time. I mean, any final thoughts for anyone who is most likely going to face this same Maoist bullshit of how you should respond, or is the goal that they want? Are they achieving their ends since no other professor or instructor at this university would ever dare say they support Israel? Is that the goal? They want to silence you and scare everyone else into believing that evil Islamist death cults are morally superior to a only democratically elected nation in the region? Is that their goal? Or are they too stupid to even have a goal, and they're just terrified they don't want to get hurt by someone who's going to come running at them with a knife?
I think it's a mix. I think it's they got someone, they're deathly afraid of being called racist. Being called racist is what drives much of the left. Just avoidance, let no one ever think I'm a racist. And I don't think we should be racist, of course not. But
You're talking substance. You're talking. There's a great.
They're so terrified of that.
Oh yeah,
Then this guy, brown guy, goes up there and starts playing the victim card and throwing and there were 6 of them, senior administrators, all around him, all panicking. They don't know what to do. So it's probably 80% incompetence, 20% malice. I can only surmise. Yes, there is a lot of anti-Semitism. There's a lot of Muslim students, and I've never had a single problem with a Muslim student. But that just happens to be most of the complaints. I don't know if they've been incited by one person or if there's there's all these rumors that they get major grants from Middle Eastern nations like Qatar. Yep. And there's rumors, and I don't know if it's true, that perhaps some Muslim leaders have said, if you don't fire this Finlayson, we're not going to send our students there. And that, because there's so many, and there's very few Jewish students, that would really hurt them. I don't know if that's the reason. If it's all very murky. It's all very opaque. It's all very Alice in Wonderland.
It's all very
And
anti-Western is the major point to remember. This is all very
yeah, there's no
Maoist, all of it.
there's no due process. It's a
Nope.
kangaroo court. Like they use something called balance of probabilities. So that kid who lied about what I said on the phone, if he's a better liar than I'm better at telling the truth, I will be found guilty.
Right.
And I mean, I've got a guilty face. It's not my fault. My mother said that. And like I remembered, I've been accused of stuff just for I don't turn off my face when I have emotions at all well. And so my contempt and sarcasm and lack of respect just sort of
I'm shining through. You know,
shining through.
Good for you. Good for you.
And
Too many of these people get along with being treated with respect they don't earn. Good for you.
And this morning I told them that I would not sign the NDA. And I thought giving me this highly restrictive NDA on a Friday and with a meeting on a Monday was a rather petty move. And my friend was on the call and he said I was emotional and a little bit unhinged. See, my bar is so low with these people. If I have no profanity and I'm not screaming and yelling, like I don't know. I didn't think I was that bad.
But
I
look,
was in control,
they're attacking you for no reason. You literally walked into a classroom and have been assaulted by your community for 6 months. What, you're supposed to be fucking pleasant? It's ridiculous. Yeah. I love it when they say stuff like in these struggle committees. Well, you're really angry. Of course I'm really fucking angry. What are you talking about? Why wouldn't you be? Like, it's just they're nuts. But they're doing everything they can to get you. Man, I wish you all the best, because these assholes need to be brought to heel. And I know in America, have lawyers clamoring over themselves to take your case and sue these pricks with their eye on whatever size the fucking endowment is. Like, this is madness. And I thank you seriously for standing up and saying something, because these people thrive on silence and darkness. All of them, wherever they are, they thrive on you being quiet and taking it. Well, you got no incentive to take it. You got every incentive to yell about it, because being polite has gotten you fucking nowhere right now, right?
Yeah, they fired the department head for no reason. He was great a year before. The same person did it. He was very mousy and compliant. The way with bullies, you stand up to bullies. If you act weak before bullies, they just smell blood and come after you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I don't do well with bullies, and I probably will continue not to do well with bullies. We'll see what happens in the end. I'm not in this to lose. I'm in this to win, and we will see what happens. And even if they fire me,
they're going to fire you, no doubt. But Paul, I thank you for keeping the fight up on behalf of Western civilization. To all my listeners, thank you for listening. And this should be a strong reminder, as I always tell you, to turn off the mainstream media who are lying to you and tune into Messy Times.